Hey everyone! If you enjoyed this video, the full version is available on Patreon. I'll be uploading all my content there going forward.
Chapter 1 Siridii Shinu Spiritual Academy 4 years after Uehara Teja traveled to this world. It was the important day of his graduation from Shinu Spiritual Academy. Dear graduates, your study career at Shinu Spiritual Academy has ended. The majestic figure of the Captain General Yamamoto Genrisai appeared on the stage, with black patterns embroidered on the neat white captain's haori, which looked particularly solemn. From today on, you will become a true Shinigami. I hope you can remember your mission, work hard to practice, and contribute your strength to protecting Siridii. After the speech, the captains and vice-captains of each team began the intensive recruitment of new students. They stood in front of their respective booths and enthusiastically introduced the characteristics and advantages of their own teams to the graduates. Our first team is the core of Godii 13. The vice-captain of the first team, Chjur Sasakaibe, stood straight. He cleared his throat and said loudly, "We have the strongest fighting force in the entire Siridii, and every member is an elite who has been strictly screened and trained. Join our first team. You will have the opportunity to receive personal guidance from the Captain General, Genryusai Shigakuni Yamamoto. This is an opportunity that other team members dream of." Sui Feng, the captain of the second team, crossed her arms. Her eyes were sharp and firm, and she exuded a unique charm. She looked at the graduates around her and slowly said, "The second team is a secret mobile force that excels in assassination and intelligence gathering. If you like challenges and excitement, then the second team will be your best choice." At this time, Ichimaru-jin came over with a smile. His smile made people feel like spring breeze, but there was a hint of subtle cunning in his eyes. He gently patted Chjur Sasakibe's shoulder and joked, "Hey, Vice-Captain Kojiro, you are always so serious, don't scare these graduates away." Chjur Sasakaibe frowned slightly. He glared at Ichimaru-jin. "Captain Ichimaru, please don't mess around here. I'm introducing the situation of the first division to the graduates, so that they can understand the importance of our first division." Ichimaru-jin shrugged and said with a smile, I know. But you don't have to be so nervous. The graduates have their own choices, and we just need to introduce the characteristics of each division clearly." Ichimaru-jin turned to the graduates, "Our third division is a support force. Our duty is to provide timely support when other divisions need help. We attach great importance to teamwork, because only by unity can we exert the greatest strength. Welcome to join our third division. Here, you will make a group of like-minded partners and work together to protect Siridii." Ichimaru-jin. The man who always has a mysterious smile. He has been firmly in the position of captain of the third division for 10 years. And in the distant future, there are still 17 long years before Kurosaki Ichigo steps into Siridii. Shiba Ishin, the former captain of the 10th division, has now lost his Shinigami power and is opening a clinic in Karakura town. And in Siridii, the young and promising Hitsuga Ichware has just taken over Shiba Ishin's position and become the new captain of the 10th division. Uehara Teja stood quietly in the crowd. His eyes fell on his panel. Name, Uehara Teju. Position, Spiritual Arts Academy Chief Graduate. Ryutsu, 10th Class Riway, Ordinary Seat Officer Level. Zanpakut, Miragawa, Shikai. Zanjutsu, Senior Seat Officer Level. White Hits, Senior Seat Officer Level. Kid, Senior Seat Officer Level. Shunpo, Vice Captain Level. Reinforcement, 3 stars. It clearly shows the results of his 4 years of study at the Shinagawa Academy. His slashing techniques, White Hits, Kid, and Shunpo have all reached the level of a senior officer. Then, his sight shifted to the man not far away who had a harmless smile on his face and was chatting and laughing with the people around him. Aizen had long black hair, neatly combed behind his head, and looked gentle and elegant. It was hard to associate him with those conspiracies. Looking at Aizen, a bold evil thought suddenly surged in Tingshu's heart. He wanted to challenge Aizen, the big boss of the Shinigami world. The reason why he was so bold was that he had a unique support, the infinite reinforcement system. In the Shinigami world, from the perspective of spiritual power, the 20th level spiritual power is an ordinary Shinigami. Only the 10th level spiritual power is qualified to be a seat officer. The 4th and 5th level spiritual power are vice captain level Ryutsu. The 3rd level spiritual power is an ordinary captain level Ryutsu. The 2nd level spiritual power represents a senior captain level Ryutsu. The 1st class spiritual power represents the Millennium Captain Ryutsu. At the same time, Shinigami can be divided into ordinary Shinigami, ordinary seat officer, intermediate seat officer, senior seat officer, vice captain, captain level, senior captain level, millennium captain level, transcendence level, spirit king candidate, and spirit king level according to their strength. It's just that no matter the strength or spiritual power, after reaching a certain level, it will reach the limit and cannot be broken through. This is the racial limit of each race. But Uehara Teiju is different. He has an infinite reinforcement system. He can evolve infinitely. As a Shinigami, he can infinitely strengthen all his shortcomings and gain a strength improvement equivalent to 200 times the effort of ordinary people. Specifically, every year he will get a chance to strengthen a shortcoming, which will enhance his weakest ability. This kind of reinforcement is not a simple enhancement, but similar to overcompensation, just like the reconstruction of a muscle after a tear will become tougher and stronger. After reinforcement, Uehara Teiju's original strength shortcoming may even become his strongest one. Therefore, his strength can become stronger at an incredible speed. The talent of infinite reinforcement can be applied to Zanpakuto and Ryutsu physique, and even the soul limit can be enhanced. Therefore, he does not need to sacrifice his appearance to Hollow or be the son of the Soul King to break the racial limits of Shinigami and Hollow and become a noble transcendent. Uehara Teiju is a natural god. In fact, he can naturally become a powerful transcendent even if he has been lying down. In just 4 years, he has been promoted from an ordinary general to a senior officer because of the existence of the system. However, infinite reinforcement requires experiencing big scenes and challenging strong enemies with weak abilities to enhance the reinforcement star level. The higher the star level, the stronger the reinforcement. The basic 1 star can only eat the minimum allowance, and the full level of 10 stars can bring a terrifying improvement. Before, Uehara Teiju pushed the star level to 5 stars at most, and he could suddenly get the strength improvement of the senior officer level. The improvement of the full level of 10 stars is simply unimaginable. Therefore, Uehara Teiju, who wants to make a fortune, has a strong desire in his heart. Challenging the big boss Aizen, and using the weakest Ryutsu to challenge him. This is really a bit of a death wish. You know, Aizen is not an ordinary character. His high status is well known in the entire Shinigami world. A famous conspirator, orator, actor, inventor of the Ryutsu theory, professional father-raising household and beauty and hairdressing master in the Shinigami world. His Ryutsu talent is even stronger than the charts. With the strongest illusion type Zanpakuto Kaika Suijutsu, he can make a fool of all the captains. However, Uehara Teiju is not without confidence. In addition to his magical infinite reinforcement system, he also has the strongest Zanpakuto in Soul Society. This Zanpakuto is his secret weapon. It is also his biggest reliance for daring to challenge Aizen. Chapter 2. In the Shinigami world, Zanpakuto is undoubtedly the most powerful weapon of Shinigami, with endless uses. However, there are differences between Zanpakuto. Some Zanpakuto sealed state can kill the captain. Some Zanpakuto Shikai can kill a group of captains in seconds. Some Zanpakuto Bankai can destroy the world. Some Zanpakuto Bankai will break when hitting small fish. And Uehara Teiju's Zanpakuto surpasses all of the above, and is not controlled by the old silver coin monk and the sword god. This Zanpakut was given to him by the system as a reward when he first crossed over to Rukanga. It is also the only space-time Zanpakut in Soul Society. Even if it is only in the sealed state form, Mirakuwa can provide spatial perception and deflect attack effects. More importantly, Mirakuwa is immune to Kaika Suijutsu's illusion to a certain extent. This gave Uehara Teju more confidence when facing Aizen, who had Kaika Suijutsu. Besides, Aizen was amazingly powerful, even reaching the level of a 1,000-year captain. However, in order to maintain his own image, in front of a group of captains, he did not dare to easily show his true strength. Therefore, Uehara Teju had a great chance. In the general training ground of the Shin Spiritual Academy, the golden sunlight poured down like a fine veil, covering the entire venue in a bright and warm glow. The grand scene of the freshman graduation ceremony was in full swing. The colorful flags fluttered on the scene, and the colorful flags swayed gently in the breeze, making a fluttering sound. The captains and vice-captains of each team were like bright stars, and the places where they stood seemed to have their own halos, exuding an awe-inspiring atmosphere. Surrounded by groups of vigorous and aspiring graduates, the eyes of these young people flashed with expectations and curiosity about the future. They either raised their heads slightly, listening to the captain's introductions with reverence in their eyes, or whispered to each other, discussing their favorite squads in a low voice, with youthful vitality and passion on their faces. In this noisy, lively atmosphere full of hope and vitality, a piece of news was like a bolt from the blue, and like a boulder thrown into a calm lake, it instantly stirred up 1,000 waves. Have you heard? That newly graduated Uehara Naiju is going to challenge the captain of the 5th squad, Aizen. What? This is simply a fantasy. They gathered together as if being pulled by an invisible force. They whispered to each other. Is this kid crazy? How dare he, a fresh graduate, have such an arrogant idea? The captains and vice-captains also reacted strongly. The originally peaceful face of the vice-captain of the 1st squad, Chur Sasakaibe, instantly wrinkled. His thick eyebrows were knitted tightly, forming a deep character, which was even more profound because of anger at this moment. He shouted loudly, "This kid just graduated from the academy, what real ability can he have? He dared to challenge Captain Aizen, he is simply courting death." After hearing the news, the captain of the 6th division, Kokaki Jinrei, just shook his head slightly. There was a trace of pity in his eyes. It seemed that he had seen the tragic end of Uehara Naiju. The young man was too ignorant, and he was afraid that he would pay a heavy price for his recklessness. He may not understand that in the world of Shinigami, the gap in strength cannot be made up by courage. The vice-captain of the 11th division, Kuzujishi Yachiru, grinned and laughed without concealing his mouth. She crossed her arms and narrowed her eyes, looking like a cunning little fox. Haha, this Uehara Niwaju is really overestimating himself, who does he think he is? Even if he faces Captain Aizen who is not very good at fighting, he has no chance of winning. He must be crazy about becoming famous, but this way of becoming famous is a bit stupid. Kuzujishi Yachiru thought to herself that this Uehara Niwaju must be a guy who doesn't know his place. He thought that challenging Aizen would make him famous overnight, but he didn't know what kind of miserable defeat was waiting for him. She even began to imagine the embarrassed look of Uehara Niwaju being beaten to a pulp, and couldn't help laughing. Aizen's eyes slowly fell on Uehara Niwaju. The corners of his mouth slightly raised, and a hint of curiosity surged in his heart. At this time, Aizen also remembered Uehara Niwaju. He was able to notice him because this Shinigami was very special. Like Zaraki Kenpeki, the other party had obtained Zanpakut before joining Godi I-13. Aizen's mouth curled up meaningfully. With that faint smile, he walked towards Uehara Naiju. His eyes seemed full of admiration. "Dare to challenge the captain, it seems that you are very confident in your ability, worthy of being the top graduate of Spiritual Arts Academy." The voice was gentle and magnetic, as if it could bewitch people's hearts. It made people around look sideways. Even a few freshmen couldn't help but whispered, "Captain Eisen is so graceful." Uehara Nijua stood upright, like a pine tree, standing firmly in place. His eyes were clear and firm, looking directly into Eisen's eyes, without the slightest fear. He responded calmly, "Because you are a good person, even if I am not your opponent, Captain Eisen will not use heavy hands, you are very gentle." Eisen secretly complained in his heart, "Good people should be pointed at by knives? Humph, fortunately I am not a good person." The corners of his mouth twitched slightly. But soon he returned to that gentle smile, as if wearing a perfect mask. Eisen waved his hand gently, his tone was still gentle. But there was a trace of subtle scrutiny in his eyes. "Since you are so courageous, then I agree to fight you. Taking this opportunity, it is just right to observe the extent of Uehara Teiju's strength. And whether there is anything special about the Zanpakuta in his hand." Chapter 3. The main training ground. At this time, a group of Shinigami captains gathered here. Each of them exudes a unique and powerful aura, which makes people feel awed. Even Jaishur Yukatake, who has always been known as the King of Leave, rarely took sick leave today and appeared on time at this important occasion, the graduation ceremony and enrollment meeting. There was a trace of solemnity on his slightly pale but still handsome face. The reason why this conference is so highly anticipated is that there is an unknown story behind it. 100 years ago, several powerful captains suddenly defected. Their departure was like dropping a heavy bomb on the calm lake, instantly breaking the original balance. Then, Shiba Yuxin disappeared inexplicably again. This series of events, like a chain reaction, caused ripples in Siridae, which had been calm for a long time. In such a situation, in order to deter the restless Hueco Mundo, while maintaining the delicate balance of souls between the three realms. After careful consideration, the captain, Genri Yusai Shigakuni Yamamoto, decided to launch a large-scale operation. And this superstandard graduation ceremony was actually just a pre-war rehearsal for this major operation. Although on the surface, this was a graduation ceremony for the graduates. They wore brand new Shinigami costumes, standing on the martial arts field with their vision and expectations for the future. However, in the face of this life and death situation, they seemed so small. They were not even worthy of Kakuzu, and even in terms of combat strength, they were far from being qualified to be cannon fodder. When the real battle came, they could only watch from the back, or play a trivial role in some marginal tasks. At this time, the real protagonists of this conference. They were undoubtedly the captains who stood at the top of the Shinigami world. They shouldered the heavy responsibility of protecting Siridae and maintaining the balance of the three realms. Every decision and every action could affect the fate of the entire Shinigami world. Their existence was like a towering mountain, sheltering the entire Shinigami world from wind and rain. He is the backbone of everyone's heart. Just when everyone thought that this conference would proceed smoothly under the leadership of the captains according to the established process, a figure suddenly broke this calm. Uehara Teiju, the young Shinigami who had just graduated, stood up. His eyes were firm and fearless. He had no idea what kind of powerful force and complex situation he was about to face. His move was like a stone thrown into a calm lake. It instantly attracted everyone's attention. Young. So young. Matsumoto Ranjaku's long orange hair fluttered gently in the breeze. She sighed softly and spoke first, "Maybe he is a genius among the graduates of this year. But he doesn't seem to understand that in front of the captains, his little strength has no chance of winning. Even if Captain Eisen doesn't use his full strength, the result will not change at all." A trace of worry flashed in her eyes. "I just hope this kid won't be discouraged by this failure, after all." Speaking of this, she paused slightly, and a faint smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. "He is quite good looking." Ise Nanao stood aside, gently pushing her glasses, her eyes behind the lenses calm and deep. She nodded slightly in agreement. He is indeed courageous, but courage is not equal to strength. In the world of Shinigami, strength is the root of everything. He is destined to fail in this challenge, I just hope he can learn something from it. At this time, Yamamoto Genrisai, who sat on the high seat, the captain who had lived for thousands of years, still closed his eyes slightly, his face calm as water, without any waves. In his long years, he has seen countless storms and challenges. He didn't seem to care about such a seemingly disparate duel. In his opinion, this was just a momentary impulse of young people. Other captains also didn't take this so-called challenge to heart. In their eyes, a Shinigami trainee with only 10th level spiritual power. Even if his Zanpakuto is Shikai, how powerful can he be? This is like a young animal that has just learned to walk, daring to challenge the overlord of the forest. It was really ridiculous. They thought that only Captain Aizen was kind-hearted and willing to play with this ignorant newcomer. After all, with Captain Aizen's strength, even if he let him off the hook, just one flat strike would probably easily solve this overconfident challenger. Zaraki Kenpeki and Kurotsuka Mayuri, who had always been at odds with each other, were still bickering at the side. Zaraki Kenpeki's tall and strong body exuded a strong fighting atmosphere. He crossed his arms, looked at Kurotsuka Mayuri with disdain, and shouted. Kurotsuka Mayuri, you look so weird, fiddling with those bottles and jars all day, you are really not like a man. Kurotsuka Mayuri pushed the glasses on his nose, raised a weird smile at the corner of his mouth, and sneered. Humph, Zaraki Kenpeki, you only know how to fight and kill, a simple-minded guy with strong limbs, sooner or later you will fall into your own recklessness. The two of them talked back and forth, neither of them gave in. The air around them seemed to become hot because of their quarrel. Harusui, today's scene is really lively. Jaisure Yukate's gentle face always had a faint smile. He said softly, although Uehara Taishi is young and energetic, his courage is really commendable. Kurako Shunsui yawned lazily, with a cynical smile on his face, and responded. Haha, Jushiro, you are always so kind. This kid's courage is worthy of praise, but in front of the captains, he is undoubtedly a moth flying into the fire. Byakuya Kokaki stood there with a cold face, like an iceberg, exuding an atmosphere that keeps people away from him. His handsome face was like a carved work of art, without any expression. He thought to himself that although Uehara Taishi's appearance was more outstanding than his own, he dared to challenge the captain with his little strength, which was really ignorant of the sky and the earth. In Byakuya Kokaki's view, the position of captain represents supreme glory and powerful strength. How can a kid who just graduated easily provoke it? Sui Feng frowned slightly, and her sharp eyes stared at Uehara Taishi. In her eyes, Uehara Niju had no respect for the captain, and this behavior was extremely impolite in her eyes. In the world of Shinigami, hierarchy and rules must be strictly followed. Uehara Niju's actions were undoubtedly destroying this order. And Ichimaru Jin, who was hiding in the corner, was eating dried persimmons with a smile. Behind that seemingly gentle and harmless smile, there was an elusive expression. He actually took the initiative to enter Aizen's sight. He is really ignorant and fearless. He thought to himself. Is this Uehara Niju really capable or just reckless? I don't know what his fate will be, will he become a tool or an experimental subject? Aizen is much more terrible than everyone imagined. Especially his extremely strong Ryutsu talent. Everyone's eyes, like a spotlight, were tightly locked on Uehara Niju and Aizen in the center of the venue. Uehara Taiju stood there quietly, his figure as straight as a pine tree. His outstanding appearance looked even more elegant and outstanding under the sunlight. The breeze blew gently, blowing his black hair. At this moment, Uehara Taiju moved without warning. The Ryutsu in his body surged instantly, like a volcano about to erupt. He suddenly released a powerful Ryutsu impact in the direction of Aizen. The Ryutsu was like a materialized storm. It swept towards Aizen with amazing energy. Aizen, who was originally smiling and planning to say a few polite words to consolidate his gentle personality, was stunned on the spot. A look of disbelief flashed in his eyes. A trash with 10th level spiritual power. He actually dared to use Ryutsu bombardment on himself? Reverse the Tian Gang. Chapter 4. Originally, Aizen had his own plans. He planned to maintain his gentle and friendly personality and let go of the sea in this duel with Uehara Teiju. Give this ignorant young man a chance to show his abilities. After all, in his opinion, Uehara Teiju might have some potential, which was worth him spending some time to observe. However, Uehara Teiju's next move was far beyond Aizen's expectations. His desperate and almost crazy attack method made Aizen suddenly feel that this young man was too reckless and didn't know how to judge the situation. The expectation that Aizen had in his heart disappeared instantly. It was replaced by deep disappointment. In his eyes, Uehara Teiju's performance at the moment was just like this, like a reckless man who was eager for success but had no strategy, and there was no value for him to continue to observe. Aizen's eyes flashed with a barely perceptible coldness. Then, his body shook slightly. In an instant, a mighty Ryutsu like a surging tsunami swept out of his body. This Ryutsu blasted towards Uehara Teiju with lightning speed. Wherever it passed, the air was squeezed and made a crackling sound. Everyone present, whether captains or ordinary Shinigami, immediately felt a terrifying pressure descending on the whole scene like a dark cloud. This is the power of captain-level Ryutsu. Just a little pressure is enough to make these battle-hardened Shinigami feel short of breath. For Aizen, the release of this Ryutsu is simply easy, not even a warm-up. In an instant, Uehara Teiju's originally surging Ryutsu was like fragile glass, and was easily shattered by Aizen's Ryutsu. The terrifying pressure was like a sharp blade. It acted directly on his body without any hindrance. After one blow, Aizen's face quickly changed to a concerned expression. He said in a gentle voice, "My fault. I'm so sorry, I hit too hard. Medical team." His voice echoed in the silent martial arts field, as if full of self-blame. There was a dead silence. Everyone's eyes were focused on Uehara Teiju, who fell to the ground. Aizen originally thought that his seemingly careless but powerful blow just now was enough to make this ignorant young man lie down for 4 or 5 days and reflect on his recklessness. When he attacked, he deliberately controlled the strength accurately. He thought he was showing mercy. Compared with other captains, he felt that his actions were simply a model of kindness. After all, if it was Zaraki Kenpeki, the captain of the 11th Division, a fighting maniac, faced with such a provocation, he might have mercilessly chopped Uehara Teiju into fine pieces. And if it was Kurotsuka Mayuri, I'm afraid that Uehara Teiju will have a few more strange parts on his body. However, just as Aizen was about to maintain his kind appearance and pretend to greet the medical team, his words suddenly got stuck in his throat. Because he found that the other party did not fall down as he expected. Aizen felt a strong doubt in his heart. This was completely out of common sense. The Ryutsu impact he just released was difficult for an ordinary Shinigami trainee, even some experienced officers, to withstand. But the young man in front of him was completely fine. How is this possible? At this moment, he was slightly interested. Time seemed to freeze. Ordinary Shinigami, even the vice-captains, they were stunned by the Ryutsu confrontation that just broke out. Their faces were full of confusion and shock. Their bodies softened slightly uncontrollably, and their legs seemed to have lost the power to support them. They could only stand up with their tenacious will. Although the thrilling Ryutsu confrontation lasted only a moment, it was deeply engraved in their minds like a brand, leaving them with a seemingly endless psychological shadow. Everyone was secretly glad that they were not standing in the direct impact range of that terrifying force. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. After witnessing this scene, the other captains had different ideas. Most of them believed that Aizen had always shown a gentle and friendly image, and this time he definitely didn't want to use heavy hands, but just accidentally missed. In their eyes, Aizen's image became taller and taller. As expected of the captain who always showed his elegant demeanor and kind heart, he was indeed very Asahi. They talked easily, as if what had just happened was just a small accident. They did not notice the hidden abnormality at all. However, in the crowd, Ichimaru-jin frowned. Things are not as simple as they seem. Ichimaru-jin knew Aizen's true strength and his unfathomable horror. He also knew that Aizen's ability to control details was unmatched. In his cognition, Aizen was like a machine that was precise to the ultimate. Every action and every decision was carefully considered. How could he make such a low-level mistake? He clearly remembered the look in Aizen's eyes and the strength of Ryutsu when he made the move just now. Aizen did intend to knock down Uehara Niwaja directly. According to common sense, with Aizen's strength, it is almost impossible to fail. Ichimaru-jin's heart was alarmed. Something is wrong, 9 out of 10 are wrong. This Uehara Teiju is strange. On the stage, Uehara Teiju's figure is particularly eye-catching. He just endured the terrifying impact of Aizen's captain-level Ryutsu, but he stood there safely. Uehara Teiju raised his head slightly. His eyes were calm and indifferent, and there was even a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. He said in a slow, steady, and powerful voice. As expected of the Shinigami captain. A casual blow has such power. It seems that using the sealed state to deal with Captain Aizen is indeed a bit arrogant. My fault. There was no guilt in his tone, but a sense of ridicule. It seemed that he was playing a light-hearted joke with Aizen. Aizen couldn't help feeling speechless when he heard Uehara Teiju's words. So you really don't treat the captain as a human being? Should I thank you for showing mercy? It's really interesting. This made him more and more interested in this young man. Chapter 5. On the ring tightly covered by the martial arts field barrier. Uehara Teiju stood quietly in the center, holding Zanpakuto tightly in both hands, and activated Shikai. Immortal body cloud wind, formless and invisible, flow, Gorogawa. In an instant, a vigorous Ryutsu surged out of his body like a volcanic eruption, sweeping around. Gorogawa, which was originally in the shape of a long sword, under the injection of this Ryutsu, instantly underwent amazing changes. White cloud patterns emerged on the blade. These cloud patterns seemed to have life, slowly wriggling, exuding a palpitating breath. They were like black holes in the universe, with unparalleled devouring power, and began to frantically attract the surrounding Ryutsu and spiritual perception. Even time and space seemed to be pulled by them and became distorted. As the cloud patterns continued to absorb enough Ryutsu, layers of water vapor began to spread. These water vapors were like a layer of gauze, but they contained powerful power. They spread rapidly, distorting the space around Uehara Teiju. And these ripples did not dissipate, but gradually condensed together, forming a ripple-like water coat, gently draped over Uehara Teiju's body. At this time, he seemed to be in an illusory world. Not only did his figure become a little blurry, but even the spiritual sense he exuded was distorted and elusive by this strange scene. This extremely powerful and strange Ryutsu and breath. The captains watching couldn't help but frown slightly. This knife? Very strange. Tosen Kaname, who had been silent all the time, his eyes hidden under the eye mask seemed to flash with strange light. The invisible spiritual sense was like a wisp of silk, carefully extending towards Mirakawa. At the same time, Ichimaru-jin's right hand unconsciously covered the handle of Shin's. His fingers trembled slightly, and began to rub the handle gently. Aizen, with his eyes full of interest, stared closely at Uehara Teiju. In his mind, the power of Ryutsu has always been regarded as an absolute existence. However, this young man was able to evade his Ryutsu attack in the sealed state. This made him more curious about Mirakawa. The sealed state can perform so well, what about Shikai? Aizen thought to himself, and he felt that this was a rare and good sword. With just one encounter, he saw some of Mirakawa's mysteries with his keen insight. At the same time, he became more interested in Uehara Teiju, the mysterious young man. Just as Aizen was thinking. Suddenly, Uehara Teiju in front of him suddenly disappeared from the spot. The speed was so fast that it seemed like a flash of lightning. Aizen was slightly startled and instantly judged. Shunpo is good. Vice-captain level. But he immediately denied it in his heart, it's far from enough. Aizen's mind is like a precision instrument, and he analyzed the pros and cons of Uehara Teiju's action in an instant. At this time, Uehara Teiju did not choose to dodge. On the contrary, he slashed directly at Aizen like a tiger pouncing on its prey. The Mirakawa, which was emitting a strange light, drew a sharp arc in the sun, with an unstoppable momentum. Aizen secretly wondered in his heart, it really fits his character. He is so reckless. Does he have any backup plan? Aizen was not in a hurry and easily raised the Zanpakuto in his hand to block Uehara Teiju's attack. However, at the moment when the swords touched, Aizen's face changed slightly. He clearly felt that the force was wrong. This blow was too light. It was completely inconsistent with the courage and determination that Uehara Teiju had shown before. Before Aizen could react, the Uehara Teiju in front of him suddenly disappeared without a trace, as if he had never appeared. Then, a strong wave of Ryutsu came from behind. Aizen turned around suddenly, and saw Uehara Teiju appear again. He used a move called White Hits with Ryutsu Impact, and blasted towards Aizen like a cannonball. The power came with a whistling sound, as if it was going to smash everything in front of it. Aizen was not panicked at all, his figure also became blurred, and then suddenly disappeared from the spot. This was not his famous Kaika Suijutsu, but just his superb use of Shunpo. Its speed and skills were amazing. And Uehara Teiju's elusive move. The erratic attack trajectory was very similar to the chi gathering and transformation of the black mole, but with a more mysterious charm. This is exactly the Shikai killer move that Uehara Teiju has carefully developed, called Time Echo. The effect of this move is several times stronger than the chi condensation form. Time Echo, Shikai state, creates a time afterimage every 3 seconds. The afterimage is perceived to be the same as the main body, and can also perform Zanpakuto, but the power is very weak. During the duration of the afterimage, the main body is in a different space and can attack at any time. After the main body attacks, the afterimage disappears. In Shikai state, Mirakawa's space distortion and deflection attack still exists, and it is stronger. This is equivalent to Mirakawa's passive permanent effect, sealed state. Shikai can deflect slashing, kid, Ryutsu, spiritual perception, and Bankai can even deflect some abilities. In the distance, Aizen's figure reappeared like a ghost. Your Zanpakuto ability is really interesting. Aizen's voice sounded clearly in the silent martial arts field. Uehara Teiju stood still, with an upright posture. He raised his head slightly, looked at Aizen calmly, and replied calmly. My Mirakawa is a water-type Zanpakuto, which has no direct attack capabilities and can only create some disturbing tricks. His tone was as calm as water, as if he was talking about something insignificant. How is it? The illusion I created is very real, right? The other Shinigami around him looked at each other in surprise when they heard Uehara Teiju's introduction. An inexplicable sense of familiarity surged in their hearts. They desperately searched their memories in their minds, always feeling that they had heard similar words somewhere. Aizen gently pushed the glasses on his nose, and his eyes behind the lenses flashed a deep light. It looks like my Kaika Suijutsu. It seems to be the same type of Zanpakuto. He said casually. But everyone present could feel the deep meaning in his words. Kaika Suijutsu, that is Aizen's proud Zanpakuto, possesses a terrifying illusion ability. Uehara Teju still had a calm expression on his face, and he responded slowly. Shinigami is amazing, isn't it? Ichimaru-jin stood aside, listening to the two people's back and forth, and felt uncomfortable all over. It was as if countless small insects were crawling on his body, making him feel itchy all over. Can these two people tell the truth? Ichimaru-jin secretly complained in his heart. There was a trace of disdain in his cunning eyes. Illusion Zanpakuto? Illusion? In his opinion, such words can only coax those naive vice-captains. If Mirakawa was just an illusion Zanpakuto, why did Uehara Teju disappear inexplicably just now, and how could he avoid Aizen's powerful Ryutsu so cleverly? There must be something else. In the crowd, Zaraki Kenpeki stood there with a bored look on his face. He had little interest in Uehara Teju. In his simple and pure world of battle, only a strong opponent can inspire his fighting spirit. In his eyes, Uehara Teju is not strong enough, and it is totally meaningless to chop him. He crossed his arms and looked at the two people in the field lazily. He was too lazy to consider those so-called fancy things. In his heart, only the pure collision of power is the true meaning of fighting. Unlike Zaraki Kenpeki, Kuratsuka Mayuri stopped bickering with others instantly after hearing the conversation between the two. His eyes hidden under the mask suddenly lit up. It was as if he had discovered a rare treasure. It's the space system. Absolutely. Kuratsuka Mayuri shouted excitedly in his heart. With his keen insight and experience in studying various mysterious powers, he almost immediately judged the true ability of Mirakawa. In his opinion, Mirakawa is a Zanpakuto that can control space. This discovery made him very excited. This is really an amazing experiment. It is very valuable for research. Kuratsuka Mayuri has already started to think about how to include Uehara Nijua and his Zanpakuto in his research scope. The desire of the crazy scientist to explore is burning in his heart. At this time, the captains still look indifferent and don't care much on the surface. But in fact, they have already secretly marked Uehara Nijua in their hearts. The ability to control space is the first time in the Shinigami world. They are well aware of the truth that time does not go out, space is king. For the power of space ability, they don't need to think about it, they can understand how terrible it is. The captains have already more or less noticed the extraordinariness of Uehara Nijua Zanpakuto Urukwin with their keen insight and rich combat experience. However, those ordinary Shinigami, although they opened their eyes wide and tried desperately to see every detail in the field, but their eyes are still full of confusion. The lightning-fast and unpredictable moves between Uehara Teju and Aizen were difficult for them to understand. They could only vaguely feel it. This newly graduated Uehara Teju could actually fight the captain on equal terms. Uehara Teju and Aizen both stopped fighting tacitly. This battle ended in astonishment and confusion among the crowd. In fact, Uehara Teju was not in a good state at this time. On the one hand, although Mirakawa was extremely powerful after Shikai, each of his abilities, including those seemingly insignificant passive effects, consumed a lot of Ryutsu. What's more, during the battle, he had been using pure Ryutsu to fight Aizen head-on, trying to find a chance to break through in this collision of power. Such high-intensity consumption made his Ryutsu like a stream that was about to dry up, with little left. But it was only now. A month later, he would not be so weak, and the Shikai ability could be used at will. He took the risk to challenge Aizen today. It is also to make up for my shortcomings with the pressure of this battle. On the other hand, Aizen's eyes are too poisonous. The benefits are obtained, and it is also great to be able to expose less of the bottom card. Chapter 6. Uehara Teju became famous in one battle. Yamamoto Genrisai, the captain of Godi I-13, has seen the great value hidden in Uehara Teju. After careful consideration, he made a decision to recruit Uehara Teju into the first team. This decision caused an uproar in the Shinigami world. The first team, as the core of Godai 13, has always represented the highest honor and the most difficult responsibility. And Yamamoto Genrisai not only recruited Uehara Teju into the first team, but also granted him the 10th seat position. For a Shinigami who just graduated, this is undoubtedly a great honor. Uehara Teju stood in front of Yamamoto Genrisai, with an upright posture and a hint of humility and determination in his eyes. He bowed slightly and said respectfully, "Although joining other squads is not bad, after all, they all serve Godai 13. But since Mr. Yamamoto has appointed me, I have no choice but to refuse. After all, for me, joining the first squad is also a broader world." His voice was steady and powerful, echoing in the empty room. At this time, Uehara Teju had already prepared a set of lines for his upcoming career. What other squads have to take care of, our first squad has to take care of. What other squads can't take care of, our first squad has to take care of. Act first and report later, the Soul King has granted permission, this is the first squad. However, Yamamoto Genrisai made the decision to include Uehara Teju in the first squad and grant him the position of 10 seats. There are many unknown considerations behind it. The main reason is that he is afraid that Uehara Teju will be killed by other captains or sent to the dissection table. Although Yamamoto Genrisai seems to be pretending to sleep on the surface, but in fact, he is always paying attention to everything around him. He knew clearly how thorny Uehara Teju was. From the moment he dared to challenge Aizen, Yamamoto realized that this young man would not follow the rules. And this dangerous ability, in other teams, is like burying a bomb that may explode at any time. It is difficult to control. Keep it under your nose to prevent him from being used or harmed by people with ulterior motives. Uehara Teju is now officially a member of the first team. The next thing is simple. It is to change into the death suit and move into the team house of the first team that countless Shinigami yearn for. Walk slowly along the spacious and bright corridor. The layout of the rooms on both sides of the corridor is reasonable and orderly. Uehara Teju curiously pushed open the door of a room and was instantly attracted by the scene in front of him. Inside the room, every detail is handled perfectly. The decorative patterns are exquisite and elegant, and the items placed are also ingenious. Whether it is a simple vase or an exquisitely carved ornament, it shows extremely high quality. The bed is flat without a wrinkle. The white sheets seemed like the pure first snow in winter, exuding a faint fragrance. He couldn't help but want to lie down immediately and enjoy the incomparable comfort, as if all the fatigue could be dissipated at this moment. And the colleagues here were as outstanding as he had expected. Uehara Teju had just arrived and stood in the corridor a little stiffly. At this time, a kind-looking team member smiled and walked towards him, bowed slightly and said, "Welcome to the first team, Uehara Teju. I am Sato, a member of the first team. If you have any questions in the future, just ask me." Uehara Teju hurriedly returned the greeting, "Thank you, Senior Sato. I'm new here, please take care of me." Sato patted his shoulder gently. "You're welcome. We are all family members of the first team. We all heard about your battle. It was very exciting. I believe you will have a good development here." In the following days, Uehara Teju gradually became familiar with the environment of the team house. Training field. Several team members were sitting together and discussing the techniques of using Ryutsu. One of the team members named Suzuki had sharp eyes and saw him at a glance. He waved his arm enthusiastically and said, "Uehara, come and chat with us. We are discussing how to improve the control accuracy of Ryutsu more efficiently. Do you have any ideas?" Uehara Teju smiled modestly, scratched his head, and answered shyly, "I still have a lot of shortcomings in this regard, so I can learn from you seniors." Suzuki sat up slightly and explained his experience in detail with a serious expression. I think that controlling Ryotsuo is like controlling an unruly horse. It is necessary to give it enough power to allow it to gallop, and to accurately guide its direction, otherwise it will lose control. In battle, this is especially important. The slightest deviation may lead to a reversal of the battle situation. Another team member, Watanabe, nodded vigorously and added. That's right, and you need to practice constantly. Only through repeated practice can the body and Ryotsuo achieve a perfect fit, like water and milk blending together and being inseparable. Uehara Taijul listened attentively, and from time to time he raised his own questions thoughtfully. His colleagues also patiently answered them one by one. Here, no blind guy jumped out to provoke or slap Uehara Taijul for no reason. The atmosphere of the entire team house is harmonious and positive. Everyone is focused on their own training without distraction. Eager to improve their strength and work hard for the noble mission of the first team. Chapter 7. In the days after entering the first division, Uehara Taijul shuttled between the corridors and courtyards of the division every day. His heart was gradually filled with a feeling of satisfaction. He was not the kind of passionate person who was determined to devote himself to Godi 13 until his death. On the contrary, deep in his heart, he always had his own little calculations. He secretly thought about how to find a comfortable life in this Shinigami world. Humph, it's not bad to be a salary thief like a certain flash monkey. Uehara Taijul muttered to himself with a sly smile on his face. In his eyes, the first division is undoubtedly the ideal place that best fits his idea. The affairs here are much easier than those in other divisions. There is no need to frequently devote oneself to various complicated and endless tasks. It seems that he has more free time of his own. But the treatment is quite generous. The salary is quite considerable, enough for him to live a comfortable life. Moreover, the authority given by the first team is high. In his spare time, he can also visit other teams as he pleases and see the styles and interesting things of different teams. This kind of life, in his opinion, is simply perfect. Seeing him looking leisurely, Sato couldn't help but joked. Uehara, it seems that you are living a comfortable life. Are you very satisfied with our first team? Uehara Taijul raised his head slightly, with a hint of pride in his eyes. Of course, Sato Sr. The life here is just what I want, but it is much better than I thought. Sato smiled, with a hint of deep meaning in his eyes. Don't just see the superficial ease. The water behind our first team is very deep. Look at our people in power, none of them are simple people. Uehara Taijul followed Sato's gaze. Yamamoto Genrisai was standing at the other end of the courtyard, talking to Chur Sasakaibe. Yamamoto Genrisai's tall and majestic figure was like a towering mountain, and the years had carved deep wrinkles on his weathered face. Although his posture was still upright, his slightly hunched back revealed the ruthless erosion of time. Vice-Captain Chur Sasakaibe was like a cold statue. He always followed Yamamoto Genrisai meticulously. There was also the third seat Okagegen's hero, who was also an old man with grey hair. The crow's feet at the corners of his eyes were like ripples of time. It told of the long years he had spent in the Shinigami world. His figure was slightly thin. But that thin body contained a strength that should not be underestimated. The calm aura that occasionally revealed inadvertently made people understand that he was not as ordinary as he seemed. Uehara Taijul withdrew his gaze and thought to himself. He knew that these people in power might not be at their peak on the surface. Their physical strength, which was once as hot as fire, also declined with the passage of time. However, the connections they have accumulated in the Shinigami world are like a huge and dense spider web, covering every corner. Each of them has 1,000 connections with many Shinigami. Whether it is the comrades who once fought side by side, those comrades may now hold important positions in various squads. Or the various forces that they have met over the long years, these forces cover all levels of the Shinigami world. These connections are like silk threads hidden in the dark, interwoven into a huge and complex network of relationships. And their voice is even more terrifying. In the various decisions of Godi 13, their opinions can often influence the development of the situation and determine the fate of many Shinigami. Uehara Niwaju knows it very well. This is actually the private land of Captain Yamamoto Genrisai, and it is also the retirement place for his old subordinates to enjoy their old age. The old man is really soft-hearted. He just wants to retire peacefully with a few old subordinates. Uehara Niwaju whispered in his heart, and a hint of cunning flashed in his eyes. However, it depends on whether Uehara Niwaju is willing. In order to improve the star level, he doesn't mind learning the old man's magical skills of the time assassin. In his opinion, in this Shinigami world, becoming stronger is the hard truth. As long as the goal can be achieved, the means don't matter. Becoming stronger is not shabby. He thought silently in his heart. And he has already put Yamamoto Genrisai and others on the gold coin explosion list. At this time, several old men who were drinking tea leisurely in the team house felt a chill inexplicably. In the first team's team house, Uehara Teju was alone in a room. In front of him, a mysterious panel emitting a faint blue light appeared. When his eyes fell on the area showing the star level of reinforcement, the words 9 stars came into view. As expected of Aizen, you are really good. Thank you, Lan-san, he murmured. It's really a lot of gold coins. Uehara Teju's mouth corners slightly raised, revealing a smug smile. He knew that if Ryotsu's shortcomings were made up, Mirakawa's abilities would be released to the greatest extent. The chief officer Ryotsu had already surprised Aizen, so what about the vice-captain level and the captain level? In the world of Shinigami, to some extent, Shinigami's Zanpakuto is a more important combat power than Zankenkisu. The combat power of Sealed State, Shikai and Bankai Shinigami is very different and cannot be mentioned in the same breath. Just like the Shuhei who was beaten in the early stage, after unlocking Bankai, he is a terrifying existence that can be replaced by one under the Soul King. This transformation is really astonishing. It's outrageous. Aizen's Kaika Suijutsu is even more powerful and terrifying, able to play with all the creatures in the 3 realms, and its oppression is simply full. And the strongest and oldest fire-type Zanpakuto Rijinjaka, after Bankai, even has the terrifying power to destroy the world. However, Uehara Teju firmly believes in his heart. Mirakawa's potential is even higher than Kaika Suijutsu and Rijinjaka. Of course, he also understands that Zanpakuto and the user are complementary. The stronger the user, the stronger the ability of Zanpakuto will be. In a way, Zanpakuto is very similar to Devil Fruit. Even without Devil Fruit, the strong are still strong, but with the powerful Devil Fruit, the strong have the opportunity to become an unstoppable king. For Uehara Teju, Mirakawa is such an existence. Uehara Teju is looking forward to the reinforcement in a month. By then, his combat power will be at least captain level. Compared with Ichigo Buddha, who has been a spirit king for 2.5 years, he is slightly inferior, but he has great stamina. Because he can infinitely strengthen and evolve. Chapter 8. In a blink of an eye. A month passed by like a white horse passing by. During this period of time, Uehara Teju gradually integrated into the rhythm of the first team. He also had a deep understanding of the team affairs. Although he said he understood the team affairs, he was actually enjoying himself in this relatively relaxed environment and enjoying the unique life atmosphere of the first team. He shuttled between the team houses every day, occasionally handling some easy matters, and the rest of the time was entirely at his disposal. In the process, he met many Shinigami with similar interests. For example, Ise Nanao, who always read books and immersed herself in the sea of books. And Matsumoto Rangiku, who was generous and loved drinking. Her laughter was like a clear silver bell, echoing in every corner of the team house. Whenever she was free, she would always pull Uehara Teju. put a few pots of fine wine on the stone table in the courtyard. While drinking, while sharing her various adventures in the Shinigami world, Uehara Teiju in her story. I have a deeper understanding of this world. As for why most of the people he met were female Shinigami, the reason is actually simple and straightforward. The question is that the handsome Byakuya Kukaki is good looking. Compared with himself, he is just a little garden tree. The sun shines through the gaps in the leaves, casting the light and shadow of Madara. Matsumoto Ranjaku, as usual, is excited to invite Uehara Teiju to drink. In the courtyard, several pots of fine wine have been placed on the stone table early. The aroma of wine drifts gently in the breeze. Matsumoto Ranjaku's dazzling blonde hair shines charmingly in the sun. Her unrestrained laughter first reached Uehara Teiju's ears. There are many reasons why she treats Uehara Teiju so enthusiastically. On the one hand, as the vice-captain, she has a child labor captain who can be exploited to her heart's content. Her captain is like Kurako Shunsui, a well-known street slacker in this Seirai, who seems to do nothing and wanders around all day. Most of the affairs of the team fell on Matsumoto Ranjaku's shoulders. However, because of this, she actually had a lot of free time. On the other hand, under her seemingly free and easy appearance, she hides a curious heart. Uehara Naiju, a civilian who was originally unknown and inconspicuous in Rukanga. Acting so high profile, he did not hide his edge at all. This change was too abrupt, leaving Matsumoto Ranjaku full of doubts. Is he doing this for fame or profit? These days, Uehara Naiju is very popular, and there are many discussions about him. In this oppressive society with strict hierarchy and the concept of respect and inferiority is deeply integrated into everyone's bones like a brand. His attitude of standing proudly without fear of power is particularly rare. His appearance was like a boulder thrown into a calm lake. Some conservatives were deeply troubled by this. They were used to the order of following the rules. They were quite dissatisfied with Uehara Naiju's unconventional style of doing things, but they could do nothing about it. And those ordinary Shinigami who had been suppressed under the hierarchy for a long time seemed to see a glimmer of hope to change the status quo in Uehara Naiju. Matsumoto Ranjaku, who was unrestrained and uninhibited, became more and more envious in her heart during her frequent contact with Uehara Naiju. She watched Uehara Naiju walking freely in the eyes of everyone, ignoring all constraints and criticisms. The unrestrainedness that emanated from his bones fascinated her deeply. In her eyes, her usual unrestrainedness was just a superficial disguise. She knew that she was carrying too many pasts and concerns, and there were too many things that she couldn't let go. After the gathering, Uehara Naiju bowed slightly and prepared to get up and leave. Matsumoto Ranjaku saw this, a sly look flashed in his eyes, and he said with a bit of coquettishness. "Oh, are you leaving now? I haven't drunk enough." Her voice was slightly drunk, but also stubborn. Uehara Teiju stopped, his eyes like soft feathers, falling on Matsumoto Ranjaku's slightly red cheeks. He said calmly. "You are drunk." Matsumoto Ranjaku shook his head repeatedly in dissatisfaction, even with a bit of teasing tone. "I'm not drunk, but your alcohol tolerance is too poor, not like a man." Her words echoed in the quiet courtyard, with a different kind of provocation. Uehara Teiju raised his eyebrows slightly. There was a subtle helplessness in his eyes. Suddenly, he flashed, like a gust of wind, swept to Matsumoto Ranjaku's side, and gently waved his palm, hitting her neck accurately. Matsumoto Ranjaku felt a black screen before his eyes, and then he fell down softly. Uehara Teiju looked at Matsumoto Ranjaku who fainted on the ground, and whispered softly. "If you say you are drunk, you are drunk. Women will only affect my speed of becoming stronger. The 1-month period has expired." System, strengthen. Chapter 9. Not far from the 1st Squadron's base. The breeze blew gently, blowing Ichimarujin's iconic silver hair. His eyes, which were always narrowed into a slit, were now quietly watching Uehara Teju walking out of Matsumoto Ranjaku's room. His fingers subconsciously rubbed the shins in his hand. The cold gun seemed to be able to feel the fluctuations in his heart, as if responding to his long-suppressed impulse. Can you block my shot with 100 years of power? Ichimaru-jin thought to himself, with a barely perceptible gleam in his eyes. His hand tightened slightly. Shins trembled slightly under his rubbing, as if urging him to take action. However, after a moment, he slowly loosened his hand. His originally tense body also relaxed. He knew very well that he was no longer qualified to stay by Matsumoto Ranjaku's side. Memories of the past came flooding back to him. He had witnessed Aizen's cruel act of taking away Matsumoto Ranjaku's soul. The anger and pain in his heart were like a burning flame, instantly engulfing him. At that moment, he resolutely abandoned Matsumoto Ranjaku and came to Shirai alone, with only one firm belief in his heart, to kill Aizen and take back Ranjaku's soul. In these long years, he was like walking alone in the abyss of darkness. In order to get close to Aizen, he had to hide his true feelings and pretend to be Aizen's loyal follower. Gradually, he found that he could no longer turn back. Every lie, every disguise, was like an invisible chain. However, there was no regret in his eyes, only the rock-hard determination. His only thought had never changed from beginning to end. That was to kill Aizen. For this goal, he was willing to sacrifice everything. Even his own life, even the once beautiful feelings between him and Matsumoto Ranjaku. This obsession is like a seed buried deep in his heart. Under the nourishment of hatred and pain, it has grown into a towering tree, supporting him to continue on this dark road. In the room, Uehara Teju completely forgot about Matsumoto Ranjaku, who fainted on the ground. At this moment, the only thing in his mind was the power reinforcement that was about to begin. He took a deep breath. Come on! He shouted in his heart, and the voice seemed to pass through the depths of his soul, directly reaching the mysterious system hidden in the body. System, let me see your limit. In an instant, a surging Ryotsu burst out of his body like a sleeping beast that was suddenly awakened. The Ryotsu was so powerful beyond imagination that it quickly condensed into a beam of energy light that was like a substance, emitting dazzling light. Wherever this beam of light went, the space seemed to be distorted, the air was compressed sharply, and bursts of explosions were emitted. It was like an invincible king, with endless majesty, oppressing everything around it. Wherever it passed, whether it was tables, chairs, benches, or walls and bricks, they were all turned into powder and destroyed under the impact of this powerful force. Even some invisible existences hidden in the shadow corners, which usually quietly peeked at the mysterious things in the world. They trembled under the shaking of this majestic Ryotsu. It seemed that their mysterious existence forms were about to be torn apart by this power. However, this terrifying pressure did not last too long. Like a gorgeous firework, it was fleeting. Uehara Teju knew that this was just the beginning of the awakening of power. He needed a wider and safer space to thoroughly familiarize himself with this new power. So, he flashed and came to the exclusive training ground of the first team like a ghost. In the training ground, Uehara Teju stood in the middle of the field, his eyes revealing unprecedented concentration and excitement. He began to swing the zanpakuto in his hand, and the blade cut through the air, making a sharp whistling sound. Every time he swung the sword, it brought a powerful spiritual power fluctuation, as if announcing his new life to the world. He tried to use various skills, from basic Ryotsu release to complex combination of moves. Every movement was smooth and natural, with a perfect combination of strength and skill. As the practice deepened, he gradually became familiar with the changes in his own strength, and he also had a clearer understanding of this powerful force in his heart. I am so strong now. Uehara Teju's mouth corners slightly raised, revealing a confident smile. At least I can beat 10 carts of Kenshi. He opened the panel and took a look. Name, Uehara Teju, Teju. Position, 1st Squadron 10th Seat. Ryutsu, 3rd Class Reiwa, Captain Level. Zanpakut, Shikai. Zanpakut, Senior Officer Level. White Hits, Senior Officer Level. Kid, Senior Officer Level. Shunpo, Vice Captain Level. Reinforcement, 1 star, Zanpakut that will be upgraded to 1 star level after 1 year. Abilities, 1 Spatial Perception. 2 Spatial Deflection. 3 Time Echo. An 8-star reinforcement directly upgrades Reiwa from officer level to captain level, which is more powerful than taking an elixir. It is indeed an 8-star reinforcement. It is worth his opening challenge to reverse Tian Gang and challenge the hairspray hand. After all, Ryutsu is too crucial. The Battle of Shinigami is the Battle of Ryutsu. The strong Ryutsu can even kill the weak Ryutsu in one glance. This is not an exaggeration, but a cruel reality in the Shinigami world. Shinigami's Ryutsu is equivalent to the cultivation of a monk, which determines everything, including lifespan. As long as Ryutsu is strong enough, you can be immortal. As Ryutsu becomes stronger, Uehara Tejo clearly feels that his strength has undergone earth-shaking changes. The power of his moves has been improved unprecedentedly. Every swing of the sword, every release of Kid, is accompanied by a stronger spiritual power fluctuation. The soul becomes stronger and the lifespan becomes longer. Mirakawa, his Zanpakut, has also been greatly evolved in the process of Ryutsu improvement. Shikai ability has become more powerful, and the spatial perception ability that originally covered only a range of 10 meters has now expanded rapidly to 100 meters like a grassland blown by the spring breeze. This change has given him stronger insight in battle. Being able to detect the enemy's movements in advance, whether it is Aizen's unpredictable Kaika Suijutsu or those Lao Lu who are good at hiding and sneaking, they will be nowhere to hide. The ability of spatial deflection has also made a qualitative leap. Now it can easily deflect more powerful attacks, like an indestructible shield, dissolving the enemy's offensive into nothingness. At the same time, it has become more handy in avoiding spiritual perception and Kid Lock. Even when Ryutsu is fully released, Uehara Tejo can cleverly hide himself within a certain range as long as he thinks about it. His ability to hide his breath has reached an unprecedented max level, as if he has merged with the surrounding environment and become an invisible ghost. All of this is the huge benefit brought by the improvement of Ryutsu. The improvement of Ryutsu has improved his strength in all aspects, allowing Mirakawa's abilities to be greatly liberated. Chapter 10. In the world of Shinigami, the road to Ryutsu's improvement used to be like a narrow and long path, full of hardships and helplessness. According to traditional rules, Shinigami's Ryutsu depends purely on talent. It's like a mysterious rune carved by fate at the beginning of their birth. It's difficult to change. Once the talent is set, they can only wait silently in the long river of time, relying on the accumulation of time every minute and every second. Like a snail climbing a steep cliff, slowly and arduously making their Ryutsu stronger. In addition, it seems to be blocked by an invisible high wall, and there is no other shortcut to find. And this difference in talent is like a natural moat. It ruthlessly divides Shinigami into different worlds. Those Shinigami with weak talents, no matter how hard they try, how hard they practice in countless days and nights. Compared with those Shinigami with strong talents, it seems like the gap between ants and dragons. It's like creatures from two completely different worlds. Just like Starkey, the leader of Espada, his powerful Ryutsu is like an endless ocean. Just a trace of aftermath emitted unconsciously. It can easily crush a group of Minos Grande like a mountain. Let them turn into ashes in an instant. The same is true for the prison blue during the 1,000-year bloody war. Even if he was tied to a chair and lost his freedom of movement. But the Ryutsu scattered around his body is still like a raging storm. Wherever he passes, the spirits of ordinary Shinigami are like fragile candlelight, annihilated and dissipated in the wind. However, Uehara Tejo is like a meteor that breaks the rules, drawing a strange trajectory in this established Ryotsu rule world. He does not need to accumulate Ryotsu for a long time like other Shinigami, nor does he need to worry about the limitations brought by talent. In his body, there is a mysterious and powerful infinite reinforcement system hidden. All he needs is a slight movement of his mind. Just like lighting a bright lamp in the dark, you can instantly get an amazing Ryotsu increase. This system is like a magic key that can open the door to infinite possibilities. It completely subverts the long-standing Ryotsu increase model in the Shinigami world. After a reinforcement, the weakest link in his many abilities seemed to be injected with a magical power. He suddenly became the strongest existence. This wonderful change follows a unique law. The weaker the ability, the stronger the reinforcement. And the stronger the reinforcement, the stronger the ability will be. This cycle repeats. It is like an endless energy Uzumaki, constantly pushing his strength upward. If we only look at the surface strength, Uehara Tejo currently has only one captain level. According to common sense, in the world of Shinigami, mastering Bankai is an important sign of being a captain. Unless there are special circumstances. Otherwise, only Shinigami who can skillfully use Bankai can be regarded as a true captain-level strongman. Uehara Naiju only completed Shikai, and compared with those captains, he seemed to have obvious shortcomings in strength. But the facts are like a loud slap in the face. It slapped hard on the faces of those who only judged based on the surface. In actual battles, when ordinary captains face him, although he dare not boast that he can kill one with one sword, he can easily win. This strong self-confidence is not arrogance without reason. It comes from the unique Mirakuwa in his hand. It is a space-time Zanpakuto. From the moment he crossed the Rukanga, he embarked on a different path. A strange Ryotsu improvement journey blessed by the system. He has experienced 6 significant reinforcements in total. The first reinforcement was the novice reward he received when he first came to this world. At that time, he was just a whole person with meager spiritual power. In the Shinigami world, he was just a tiny Rukanga civilian soul. His abilities in all aspects were like a child who had just learned to walk, so weak. In front of those powerful Shinigami or souls, he was simply a younger brother among younger brothers, and could not withstand a single blow. And the most fatal thing was that he didn't even have a sealed state. In this world where Zanpakuto is an important symbol of combat power, it was like a soldier who broke into the battlefield with bare hands, with no support. However, the system's reward suddenly came. In the flash of a mysterious light, a Zanpakuto emitting a faint blue light appeared out of thin air in his hand. The moment he held the knife, a strange power surged into his body. At the same time, an ethereal voice sounded in his mind, telling him the name of the knife, Mirakuwa. Uehara Tejo looked at Mirakuwa in his hand. He secretly thought that the power contained in that reinforcement might far exceed the 10 stars that ordinary people can imagine. After all, this is a time-space Zanpakuto, and its existence in this Shinigami world seems too outrageous and too supermodel. It's like a cheating artifact that suddenly appeared, completely breaking the entire balance. He even thought self-deprecatingly that this cheat was simply shameless. In the Hokage world, the Akami who can't hide his tears brother Tsuchiko, relying only on a space-type Mangeki Sharingan, stirred up a storm in the world of ninjas and created countless legendary records. The space-type ability is already so powerful. What's more, Mirakuwa also has a time-type ability that is more mysterious than the space-type. Looking at the world of JoJo, the powerful bosses of all generations, if they don't have a time-type ability, they are embarrassed to walk in the world and compete with other strong men. Uehara Tejo gently stroked the blade of Mirakuwa. He couldn't imagine what kind of terrifying existence Mirakuwa would grow into. However, Zanpakuto's ability did not come out of thin air, but was born from the fusion and evolution of Shinigami's own characteristics, the deepest wishes in his heart, and the unique characteristics of the alien soul. As the only time traveler in the world, a special soul that traveled through time and space, he awakened the ability of time and space. In a sense, it seems to be reasonable. Chapter 11. Originally, with Shikai Miragawa, Uehara Taijou already had the strength to enter Godi 13. With his ability, it was easy for him to get a seat as a chief officer. If he was a little luckier, it would not be difficult to get a vice-captain position in those relatively weaker squads. However, he chose to hide his edge in the Shin Spiritual Academy and quietly lived for 4 years. For Uehara Taijou, these 4 years were not a waste of time, but a carefully planned hibernation. During this period, he experienced 4 significant reinforcements. The foundation became more solid and stable, and various Shinigami skills such as Zankenguitsu were also greatly improved. Finally, relying on the solid foundation laid in these 4 years, he took this opportunity to win the 6th reinforcement. This time, it was like a phoenix nirvana. His strength took off like a rocket and reached a new height. And now, the goal of the 7th reinforcement has been locked on the Zanjutsu. Uehara Taijou knew that if he wanted to improve the star level of this reinforcement, he had to find a stronger opponent to hone himself. In his heart, there is a being called Beast, which is an excellent opponent that can let him fully display his passion and skills. Only by fighting with such a strong man can his slashing skills be tempered on the edge of life and death, thus achieving a qualitative leap. Of course, if there is a chance, he doesn't mind fighting with top strong men such as Yamamoto Genrisai, Anohana and Aizen. The attainments of these 3 people in the field of slashing are the pinnacle, and they are the peaks that everyone in the Shinigami world looks up to. Fighting with them, even if it is only a brief moment, will definitely allow Uehara Taijou to absorb endless experience and strength, adding a heavy weight to his 7th reinforcement. Uehara Taijou, who came from across time, is not bound by the inherent concept of respect and inferiority in this world. His soul comes from another time and space, where there are different value systems and ideas. He doesn't have the spirit of devoting himself to the soul society nobles. In his opinion, the so-called noble glory and mission are nothing but illusory shackles. His inner thoughts are extremely pure, simple, and direct. Since he has come to the Shinigami world and can evolve infinitely, then he must pursue the supreme realm of immortality and enjoy life to the fullest. In his eyes, he can also sit on the throne of heaven that has been vacant for a long time. At dawn, the soft light sprinkled on the first team's barracks, adding a bit of tranquility and peace to this slightly serious place. However, this tranquility was broken by an angry figure. Matsumoto Rangiku, her iconic blonde hair was slightly messy in the morning breeze, and her face, which was always full of smiles, was now covered with haze, and her eyes were burning with angry flames. She walked straight in the direction of Uehara Taijou. Every step was accompanied by obvious anger, as if the ground under her feet was shaking. Uehara Taijou! Matsumoto Rangiku shouted loudly, with a hint of hoarseness in her voice. Apparently, the pain in her neck affected her voice. She walked up to Uehara Taijou, with her hands on her hips, looking like an enraged lioness. "What did you do to me yesterday? My neck hurt all day, how do you compensate me?" Uehara Taijou raised her head slightly, with a faint smile on her face, and replied calmly. "Sister Rangiku, you drank too much yesterday, which is not good for your health. I did that for your own good, so that you can rest early." His tone was calm and composed. It was as if he was really kind-hearted and had no guilt at all. Matsumoto Rangiku was stunned when she heard this, and then laughed angrily. She widened her eyes and looked at Uehara Taijou in disbelief. "Drinking too much alcohol is bad for your health, but a broken neck is good for your health, right? What kind of perverted logic is this?" Her voice became louder and louder, attracting the sidelong glances of some Shinigami around her. But she could no longer care about these things at the moment, and the anger in her heart completely dominated. Uehara Taijou remained unmoved, and the smile on his face became even more obvious. The two of them started to talk back and forth. The atmosphere gradually became tense and subtle. Matsumoto Ranjaku, who had always been popular in the first team and even the entire Siraidai, was repeatedly defeated in front of this man at this time. She found that no matter how angry she was or how she accused him, Uehara Teja was like a hard wall, taking advantage but never letting go. That look made her curse in her heart. What a dog! During this quarrel, Uehara Teja's eyes never left Matsumoto Ranjaku. He was keenly aware that Matsumoto Ranjaku's curiosity about him far exceeded his outward anger. This beautiful woman who looked bold and always smiled was actually very sensitive deep down. Under that seemingly strong appearance, there was a hint of uneasiness. Occasionally, a trace of panic flashed in her eyes. Although it was only a moment, it did not escape Uehara Teja's eyes. Uehara Teja was secretly proud of himself. He knew very well that in such a relationship, the favored party was always fearless. And at this moment, the initiative was undoubtedly firmly in his hands. He did not intend to let go of this opportunity easily, and was thinking about slowly dealing with Matsumoto Ranjaku. In his opinion, in this life, he had a special privilege, not taking the initiative and not refusing. He can walk on the edge of Matsumoto Ranjaku's curiosity and emotions, neither making a clear statement nor disappointing her completely, always taking control of the rhythm. He couldn't help but compare the Shinigami world with other worlds he knew. In fact, most people in the Shinigami world are reserved and sensitive, which is completely different from the Hokage world where everyone has battlefield PTSD and the pirate world where everyone is a villain. Here, moral concepts are deeply rooted in people's hearts, people's moral level is relatively high, and they act more cautiously. However, Uehara Teja secretly rejoices that he is not bound by such moral concepts. He knows that in this world full of power and interests, morality sometimes becomes a fetter. And he, precisely because he is not bound by it. So not only can he not be kidnapped by morality, but he can cleverly use the moral concepts of others and turn them into his own advantages at certain critical moments. Even achieve moral kidnapping of others. Chapter 12. The Office of the Captain of the First Team. The sun shines through the tall windows onto the ground, forming bright patches of light. Uehara Teja stood there quietly, with an upright posture and a calm and composed look in his eyes. Half a month passed quietly, and at this moment, he received a new order. The voice echoed in the silent room with unquestionable majesty. As the messenger of the first team, join the next Hueco Mundo expedition. Depart in 3 days. Uehara Teja was not surprised at all by this order. He had expected it. In the days before this, he seemed to be idling around all day, but in fact he was quietly weaving his own network of relationships in the first team. He was generous and often shared various good things with his teammates. Whether it was precious spirit elixir or strange gadgets from the present world. He gradually accumulated a good network of people in the first team. At the same time, his keen insight also made him aware of various subtle signs. He realized that the captain seemed to be planning something big. After all, in the past 100 years, Siraidai has been calm but undercurrents. The loss of several captains is undoubtedly a heavy blow to Godai 13. In addition, Shiba Ishin's mysterious report to Kyobaku before he disappeared. Captain Yamamoto Genri Yusai Shigakuni must have thought about this matter repeatedly and must be full of vigilance against Hueco Mundo. Looking back on the past, the thrilling Hueco Mundo invasion battle 200 years ago seems to be still vivid in his mind. At that time, Hueco Mundo invaded Siraidai on a large scale like a surging tide, and the entire Shinigami world trembled. Fortunately, the 7th generation Kenpei Kakurayashiki fought bravely on the battlefield of blood and fire with its unparalleled strength, and finally repelled the offensive of Hueco Mundo with difficulty. The leader of that invasion was a mysterious figure who called himself Sayalaporo and claimed to be under the command of His Majesty Baragan. His appearance left a deep memory for Siraidai. It also became an indelible shadow in the hearts of Shinigami. However, fate always seems to like to play tricks on people. After that, Siridi fell into the quagmire of civil strife. The constant disputes among various forces led to the gradual loosening of the control over the hollows. Just like a crack in the dam, the number of hollows continued to increase like a flood. This undoubtedly brought a huge threat to the balance of the entire Shinigami world. In this Shinigami world, there is an extremely delicate and fragile balance system. Siridi needs to maintain a balance with the souls of the three realms at all times, which is the key to the survival of the world. If the total Ryutsu strength of Hueco Mundo's soul is too high or too low compared to Siridi, then, like a balance out of balance, the two worlds will inevitably collide. Eventually, the terrible consequence of the destruction of the three realms will occur. The Shinigami world is like an exquisite glass castle, which looks beautiful but is extremely fragile. The three realms and hell depend on each other, balance each other and pull each other. Once the soul strength of any party deviates greatly, it may trigger a catastrophic chain reaction. The key point to maintain this fragile balance is the mysterious human stick spirit king, the legendary wedge of the three realms. The sacred duty of the Shinigami since ancient times is to bury souls and purify the hollows, so as to carefully maintain the balance of the three realms. In the previous bloody battle, Kuratsuka Mayuri even took extreme measures to balance the soul strength of Hueco Mundo and Siridi. He even massacred tens of thousands of Rukonga civilians. It was a tragic tragedy. Countless innocent lives disappeared in an instant, leaving only endless pain and sorrow. But these heavy past events seemed to be from another world to Uehara Teiju. His eyes were cold and indifferent, and there was no ripple in his heart. He didn't care. Uehara Teiju listened quietly to the order to send out the expeditionary force to Hueco Mundo. The corners of his mouth slightly raised, revealing an uninhibited smile. In his heart, even if the entire Shinigami world faces the most severe test, the collapse of the three realms, everything returns to the original chaotic era, so what? This will not delay his pursuit of powerful strength and enjoyment of life. For this call, Uehara Teiju's eyes flashed with excitement. He regarded it as an excellent opportunity to become stronger. In the hearts of ordinary Shinigami, Hueco Mundo is a forbidden place full of fear and death. Those hideous and terrifying hollows are enough to make them sweat in the middle of the night. However, Uehara Teiju is completely different. He has no fear in his heart. He knows that in the confrontation between Shinigami and hollows, even if they encounter the powerful Minos Grande, the Shinigami side can often gain the upper hand with the advantage of group combat. Minos Grande, on the other hand, mostly fights alone, isolated and helpless. Moreover, he is not an ordinary Shinigami. He holds in his hand an absolute life-saving trump card that can deal with any crisis, Mirakawa. This space-time Zanpakuto is like a divine weapon. The power contained in the Shikai state alone is enough to make Uehara Teiju unique in the Shinigami world. He thought confidently that even if he accidentally encountered Baragan, the so-called king of Hueco Mundo, in Hueco Mundo, he would be fully confident of escaping unscathed. Baragan's so-called time-based ability is simply a show of skill in front of Mirakawa, not worth mentioning. It is just the aging breath produced by the powerful Ryutsu. How dare it be compared with the real space-time ability? It is really ridiculous. After bidding farewell to the majestic old man Yamamoto Genryusai Shigakuni, Uehara Teiju slowly walked out of the captain's office. At this time, Okaji Genshiro, the third captain of the First Corps, and Chijiro Sasakaibe, the vice-captain, came up to him and chatted with him enthusiastically. Their words were full of comfort and encouragement, trying to give him a reassurance. They talked excitedly about the preparations for the Hueco Mundo expedition. They claimed that this was an operation that had been carefully planned and prepared for several years. The safety factor was extremely high and there would be no problems. In their description, Uehara Niwaju's trip this time was like going on a relaxing and enjoyable trip. Just follow the trip and you will be rewarded with full credit and glory when you come back. Uehara Niwaju listened to them. He just shrugged lightly, indicating that it didn't matter. His voice was calm and teasing. No matter how dangerous Hueco Mundo is, can it be as dangerous as Captain Eisen? Besides, my salary has been advanced to 10 years later. Even so, you dare not let me die. Otherwise, who will make up for this deficit? Thinking back to the hard 4 years he spent at the Shin Spiritual Academy, he couldn't help but shake his head slightly. During those 4 years, he gritted his teeth and persevered under the dual pressure of study and practice. He finally waited for graduation, and now he naturally had to enjoy it. So, in this 1.5 months, he completely let himself go. He bought all kinds of rare and precious luxury goods without blinking an eye. Expensive spiritual accessories, top-notch wine and food from the present world, and mysterious props containing powerful spiritual power. As long as he took a fancy to them, he would put them in his pocket without hesitation. But where did the money come from for such a lavish spending? Uehara Teiju's mouth curled up a sly smile again. He had already recorded all these expenses in the account of the captain of the first team, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigakuni. In his opinion, Lao Deng must have accumulated a lot of wealth after many years in office. Now it is time to explode gold coins for him. In a short period of time, he spent millions of rings like water. So much so that his salary was advanced to 10 years later. Chapter 13. Uehara Teiju had an uninhibited smile on his face, and a hint of teasing flashed in his eyes. My expenses have been recorded in the team account. If I can't pay it back, I'll have to rely on the 2 seniors for help. His voice echoed in the courtyard, with a bit of ease and joking. Okagegen's hero was stunned at first. Then he looked at Chur Sasakaibe. They both burst into a hearty laugh at the same time. Okagegen's hero smiled and patted his thigh lightly, saying, "You kid, you're really a joker. We can't make up for your expenses." There was a hint of helplessness in his laughter. His eyes were full of love for the young man in front of him. The sun fell on the stone road in the courtyard. 2 old men, Okagegen's hero and Chur Sasakaibe. In their eyes, Uehara Teiju is like a rising star, a well-deserved hero of the first team, and a promising star for the entire Godi 13. Chur Sasakaibe narrowed his eyes slightly, looked at Uehara Teiju, and slowly said, "Uehara, don't underestimate yourself. Looking at the entire Godi 13, your future is limitless." His voice was low and powerful, and every word seemed to contain deep expectations and trust. Uehara Teiju scratched his head slightly embarrassedly. "The 2 seniors are too kind. I just did what I should do. There is still a lot to learn." They looked at Uehara Teiju's upright posture and unruly eyes, and their hearts were full of admiration for him. The fearless spirit and the ambition to fight bravely. They all seemed to see themselves when they were young. Full of blood and passion. This kid is really full of energy. Okagegen's hero stroked his grey beard with a smile. Chur Sasakaibe nodded slightly, with a complicated look in his eyes. "Yes, but his habit of spending money lavishly is really more troublesome than Kirako Shunsui back then. Kirako Shunsui at that time was already a worrying guy, but I didn't expect that Uehara Teiju would be better than him." Speaking of these 2 old men, their pasts are not ordinary. Especially Chur Sasakaibe. His gentle appearance often gives people an illusion that he is just a clerk who is good at handling clerical affairs. Even in the shocking duel with Kurosaki Ichigo in the future, he was knocked away by the opponent in 1 circle. This also makes many people underestimate his strength. However, only those who really know his past experience can understand. He is a person who has seen a lot and done earth-shaking things in the history of the Shinigami world. First, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigakuni, the respected and awe-inspiring captain in Godi 13. The origin of his name was given by Chur Sasakaibe to some extent. The opponent completed Bankai in a month, then fed Yamamoto hard, and then turned the scar on his forehead into the shape of the word. From then on, Yamamoto changed his name. Time goes back to 1,000 years ago, it was a tragic war that was enough to shake the foundation of the entire Seoul society. Waiwak, the self-proclaimed king of the Quincy, led his Quincy army to invade the Seoul society with great momentum. The war was raging, the smoke was filled, and the entire Seoul society fell into chaos and panic. At the critical moment of this war, Chjur Sasakib, like a ghost hidden in the darkness, quietly carried out a backstab operation that changed the situation of the war. With his keen insight and superb fighting skills, he gave Waiwak a fatal blow when he was unprepared. This blow put Waiwak in a desperate situation, and he eventually died tragically, and his soul fell into a long sleep. Because of this, Chjur Sasakib's reputation as God-level Old Six spread like wildfire and became a legend among the Shinigami. In the subsequent bloody battle, Chjur Sasakib became the first figure to fall. The reason for this can't help but make people think about it. Some people speculate that perhaps the narrow-minded Waiwak, after waking up, deliberately pointed the spearhead at Chjur Sasakib in order to avenge the backstab of the year. After all, Waiwak, who lost his all-seeing eye, had suffered a heavy blow when facing an opponent like Chjur Sasakib, and this shame may have been buried deep in his heart. It is hard to say whether it is not the petty-minded Waiwak who is seeking revenge. Waiwak is really despicable, I can't afford to play with him. He is the king of the Quincy. Chapter 14. Time flies, 3 days pass in a flash, and the troops for the expedition to Hueco Mundo have been assembled. Thanks to the successful preparation of the last graduation ceremony, this assembly went exceptionally smoothly, and all the captains were present, and the lineup was luxurious. On weekdays, it is extremely rare to see so many captains gathered together. After all, the captains have heavy responsibilities, and except for a few guys who seem to be not doing their job, everyone else is busy. Usually, except for the regular captain meetings, they are like stars hidden in the clouds, and it is difficult to find their traces. Even at the captain meetings, Jaishur Yukatak often asked for leave due to illness. Uehara stood aside, his eyes slowly swept over the captains, and he looked at them carefully in his heart. Yamamoto Genrisai, the respected captain, leaned on a cane, and his posture was as straight as a pine tree. His eyes are deep and majestic, like an ancient deep pool, with endless power hidden under the calm surface. Just one look can make the air around him seem to solidify. Sui Feng, the captain of the second squad and the commander of the secret mobile team, wears a tight outfit that perfectly shows her agile figure. She has an innate arrogance on her face, as if she doesn't care about anything in the world. It is the absolute confidence in her own strength and the unique temperament cultivated by being in a high position for a long time. Ichimaru Jin, the captain of the third squad, always has an elusive fake cold smile on his face, and his narrowed eyes hide countless unknown secrets. He looks gentle and harmless, but in fact he is like a lion majesty hidden in the grass, who may launch a fatal attack at any time, making people unable to defend themselves. Anohana Retsu, the captain of the 4th division, has long black hair that falls like a waterfall. She looks as gentle and quiet as Yamato Nadeshiko, but who would have thought that this beautiful elder sister has a passionate heart inside? She is the first-generation Kenpeki, who once fought bloody battles on the battlefield. The powerful strength hidden under her gentle appearance is like a dormant volcano. Once it erupts, it will shake the world. Aizen-suk, the captain of the 5th division, looks like an extremely gentle middle-aged man. He always has a smile on his face and a gentle look. His friendly appearance seems to make people around him involuntarily let down their guard. However, Uehara Niwaju knows that all this is just a disguise of his superb acting skills. Hey, good acting! Uehara Niwaju sneered in his heart, thinking of the confrontation with him in the past. A strong sense of vigilance surged in his heart. Byakuya Kokaki, the captain of the 6th division and the current head of the Kokaki family, has a cold temperament that seems to be innate, like a frozen snow mountain, making it difficult for people to approach. However, since 4 years ago, his title of Siridi's #1 handsome guy has been gradually replaced by others. To Uehara Naiju, he is no longer that eye-catching existence, so Uehara Naiju didn't take him seriously at all. He just glanced at him lightly and looked away. Komamura Seijin, the captain of the 7th Division, wears a unique barrel-shaped helmet, tall and burly, like an unshakable hill. The werewolf tribe he belongs to gives him a unique appearance, but his loyal heart is like a burning flame, never changing. He is like a loyal guardian, silently guarding Siritii. His dog-like head that looks a bit cute forms a strange contrast with his tall and mighty image. Kurako Shunsui, the captain of the 8th Division, was dressed very coquettishly. His bright red haori shone brightly in the sun, and he wore a bamboo hat, which added a mysterious atmosphere to him. He was a complete veteran of glasses. This special habit made him always unconsciously look at women wearing glasses when selecting vice-captains. His 2 vice-captains were both glasses girls, which became the topic of conversation among the team members. At this time, his eyes fell on Tosin Kaname, the captain of the 9th Division. Tosin Kaname was wearing a pair of cool sunglasses, hiding his eyes behind the darkness. The braids swayed slightly with his movements, as if dancing a unique rhythm in the air. He stood there, exuding a trendy and pioneering atmosphere. His unique temperament made people unable to help but imagine, as if he would sing passionately with the dynamic rhythm in the next second. The picture was very strong and impressive. However, under this seemingly fashionable appearance, Tosin Kaname's experience is full of twists and turns and sadness, which can be called legendary and miserable. He once had a close friend, and the two had a deep friendship and shared life and death. But the gears of fate turned ruthlessly, and his friend suffered misfortune and died at the hands of the wicked. At that moment, Tosin Kaname's world collapsed, and he was filled with grief and anger, determined to get justice for his friend. He embarked on this thorny road regardless of everything, but he didn't expect that what was waiting for him was a more cruel reality. The hateful Tsuneya Shiro Tokinata, like a demon, ruthlessly mocked and teased him, trampling on his dignity. In that fierce conflict, Tosin Kaname tried his best, but he almost lost his life. Just when he was on the verge of life and death, Aizen appeared like a savior and saved him. Since then, Tosin Kaname has followed Aizen and embarked on the road of justice that he thought he had. But this road is full of deception and conspiracy. He groped forward in the darkness, and every step was like walking on thin ice. He thought he was pursuing the light, but he didn't know that he had already fallen into the quagmire. In the end, he couldn't get rid of the shackles of fate and ended up with a tragic ending. It was really sad and lamentable. Then, Uehara Teiju's eyes turned to Hitsuga the captain of the 10th Division. This genius child, affectionately called Ziobai, has shown extraordinary talent and potential since he was a child. His fair face always has a firm look, and his eyes reveal maturity and wisdom beyond his age. He is like a bright new star, rising rapidly in the world of Shinigami and becoming the focus of everyone's attention. However, his outstanding performance also attracted the attention of Aizen. In those thrilling battles, Aizen always seemed to like to kill him in seconds at the beginning to show his strength. Poor Ziobai has become Aizen's appetizer again and again, which is really helpless and regrettable. Looking at the captain of the 11th Division, Zaraki Kenpeki, he looked eager to try, as if he was full of infinite desire for the upcoming battle. He is a natural warrior, and fighting is as natural to him as breathing. He is not only a berserker, but also a master of self-sealing. He always seals part of his power on weekdays, just to seek the ultimate pleasure in the real battle. The captain of the 12th Division, Kuratsuka Mayuri, can be recognized as a unique Frankenstein at a glance because of his unique appearance and temperament. His mind is full of strange ideas, and he has an almost obsessive persistence in scientific research. He is immersed in his laboratory all day, accompanied by various bottles and mysterious instruments, constantly exploring the scientific mysteries of the Shinigami world. His inventions often amaze people, but also make people confused. I don't know what kind of surprises or shocks his next research will bring. Finally, Uehara Teju's eyes fell on Jaishur Yukatak. As the right-hand divine hexagram of the Spirit King, he has a high status and a far-reaching reputation. He plays an important role in soul society, as if he is the guardian of fate. However, his strength is somewhat inconsistent with his reputation. In previous battles, he always performed poorly and was almost defeated by ordinary hollows, which is really outrageous among the captain-level masters. But Uehara Teju knows that people cannot be judged by appearance. Jaishur Yukatak has been able to stand as the captain for 1,000 years, so he must have his unknown secrets and strengths. Maybe in the upcoming Hueco Mundo expedition, he will bring unexpected performances to everyone. Chapter 15. In the solemn Siridii meeting hall, the atmosphere was so heavy that it seemed like water could drip out. Captain Yamamoto Genrisaya slowly stood up, his majestic voice echoing in the hall, announcing the captain of the expedition to Hueco Mundo. Ichimaru Jin, captain of the third squad, still had that elusive smile on his face, but his eyes revealed a hint of imperceptible depth. Tosin Kaname, captain of the ninth squad, his eyes behind the sunglasses hid endless mystery, and his pigtails swayed slightly on his shoulders. Zaraki Kenpeki, captain of the 11th squad, looked eager to try as if he was about to go to a grand carnival, and exuded a strong fighting spirit. The second squad's duty is to convey orders. They are like messengers of information, ensuring that every order on the battlefield can be conveyed accurately. The 4th Division is responsible for providing medical and logistical support. The medical staff wearing white feathers will become angels guarding life on the battlefield and bring hope of life to the injured soldiers. As a support force, the 5th Division is on standby at any time, like a sharp blade hidden in the dark, giving the enemy a fatal blow at a critical moment. The 12th Division provides technical support. Kuratsuka Mayuri and his team are ready to show their skills in the mysterious land of Hueco Mundo with all kinds of strange inventions. This clearly reflects the huge difference between Hueco Mundo and Shinigami, and the most critical one is the level of civilization. Godai 13 is like a precision-operated war machine. The group fights in an orderly manner, the technical equipment is advanced and complete, and the logistical support is meticulous. Every link is closely connected and indispensable. Hueco Mundo, by contrast, seems to be much behind. The creatures there are still groping in the dark, waiting to be led to a new civilization. At this moment, Hueco Mundo is like an uncultivated wasteland, waiting for Aizen to ignite the fire of civilization and bring it under his control. The vice-captain of the first team looked solemn, took a step forward, and read out the pre-war speech loudly. Believe that our swords will never be cut. Believe that our determination will never waver. Even if we are not in the same place, our iron will always exist in our hearts. Once again, we swear that even if the earth breaks and the sky collapses, we will return here alive again. The passionate words were like a burning flame, igniting the fighting spirit in the hearts of every soldier present. Their eyes became more determined, and their hearts were full of desire for victory. Uehara Nija stood aside, listening to all this quietly. When he saw Ichimaru Jin and Tosin Kaname also joined the expeditionary force, a gleam of brilliance flashed in the depths of his eyes, and he secretly thought in his heart that it was reasonable to suspect that all this was Aizen's trick behind the scenes. Since the failure of the mask experiment 100 years ago, Aizen has been like a lion majesty staring at his prey, with his eyes fixed on Hueco Mundo. There are countless excellent experimental subjects there, waiting for him to dig like treasures, and there is also powerful combat power, enough for him to realize his ambitious plan. Perhaps before, he was not familiar with Hueco Mundo enough, and the technology was not yet mature, so he had been holding back and did not make a big move. But now, the departure of the Shinigami Expeditionary Force is undoubtedly a great opportunity for him, just like a timely rain, providing him with perfect cover. He can just use the power of Godai 13 to open up Hueco Mundo, and then take advantage of the situation to subdue the strong ones, improve the hollow technology, and improve the first-generation Espada troops. Using the power of Godi 13 to do his own private work, this guy is really well versed in the way of power and intrigue. Uehara Tejo couldn't help but secretly admire his methods in his heart, and at the same time felt that he could learn a lot from him. Uehara Tejo stood there quietly, his eyes flashing with vigilance and wisdom, thinking to himself. It seems that this guy, Aizen, wants to treat me as a chess piece in his chess game, trying to arrange me clearly. He raised his head slightly, a meaningful arc appeared at the corner of his mouth, and a strong fighting spirit surged in his heart. Humph, but you have your calculations, how can I sit and wait for death? It just so happens that I also want to meet your hairspray hand, so let's arrange each other well and see who is the controller of this chess game and who is the stronger one. At this time, the atmosphere around was tense and depressing, as if it was the eve of a storm. The captains, vice-captains and elite officers all looked solemn and upright like pine trees. They walked slowly and orderly towards the gate emitting a faint blue light. The sound of their footsteps echoed in the silent space, and every step seemed to step on the tip of everyone's heart, full of strength and determination. Uehara Tejo looked at all this, took a deep breath, and adjusted his state. He knew that this trip to Hueco Mundo was full of unknowns and dangers, but he was not afraid. As a messenger, he was responsible for delivering important information, and every order was related to the outcome of the battle, and as half of the supervisory team, he needed to be vigilant at all times to ensure the discipline and order of the team. He slowly raised his feet and looked firmly at the gate emitting a faint blue light, as if he saw the many challenges and opportunities hidden in Hueco Mundo. As the figures of the crowd were gradually swallowed by the light of the gate, Uehara Tejo stepped into it without hesitation. The moment his body passed through the gate, a powerful force swept over instantly, as if to tear his soul apart. He gritted his teeth, endured the discomfort of his body and soul, and swore in his heart. Aizen, the trip to Hueco Mundo is the beginning of the real competition between us. I will uncover all your conspiracies and make you pay for what you have done. Chapter 16. In the mysterious and vast world of Shinigami, the three realms are like planets suspended in the vast universe, each exuding a unique atmosphere. And the endless vacuum zone between these planets is the mysterious area called the Black Cavity. In this deep and dark black cavity, there are also some alien spaces like asteroids hidden, which have a peculiar name, called Valley. And the space channel connecting these planets and asteroids is the Broken Realm full of dangers and variables. It can be said that the Broken Realm is like an invisible bridge that closely connects Hueco Mundo, Soul Society, and the present world. However, this channel is extremely unstable, like a chaotic space-time uzumaki. This is a place of time and space disorder, where the rules of time and space become distorted and blurred, as if being kneaded by an invisible big hand. Moreover, in this dangerous broken realm, there is also a terrifying existence called Jutu. They are like the cleaners of the broken realm, ruthlessly shuttling through this chaotic space, and any intruder may become their target of attack. Fortunately, the Shinigami have the magical technology of the gate, which is like a stable beacon, opening up a safe passage in the chaotic world. Through the gate, the Shinigami can avoid the terrible collision and the time turbulence that can make people lose their way. Surrounded by several soul-guiding butterflies with dim light, the Shinigami passed through the gate quickly and orderly like warriors rushing to the battlefield and stepped into the mysterious and dangerous land of Hueco Mundo. Uehara Tejo was among them, his eyes were full of calmness and curiosity, and his steps were firm. When his feet stepped on the land of Hueco Mundo, a vast expanse of desolate desert came into view instantly. The rolling sand dunes, like a golden ocean, exuded a lonely and dead atmosphere under the cold moonlight. This place seems to be a corner forgotten by the world, a real barren land. There is only eternal night in Hueco Mundo, but there is no dark night that symbolizes hope and tranquility. Everywhere you look, there is endless sand, and there is still sand. The occasional low branches also present a cold stone structure, without any vitality. In fact, these seemingly ordinary sands hide an ancient and tragic history. They are the remains of the ancient Minos Grande. In the distant past, Hueco Mundo was the battlefield where the Spirit King used the power of annihilation to fight the ancient Minos Grande. Those extremely powerful ancient Minos Grande were eventually ruthlessly killed by the Spirit King, leaving only these sands, as if telling the former glory and tragedy. Is this Hueco Mundo? Where are the enemies? Come out quickly, let me kill or kill me. In the distance, Zaraki Kenpake's heroic and rough voice broke the silence of Hueco Mundo. He was seen carrying the pink-haired girl on his back, rushing into the depths of the desert like a ferocious beast. His high fighting spirit was like a burning torch, which was particularly dazzling in the cold Hueco Mundo. Apparently, his strong desire to chop and chop began to work again, and the frenzy of fighting made him unable to suppress his impulse. Ichimaru Jin, with narrowed eyes, still had an unfathomable smile on his face. He raised his hand, set up a simple tent with his hands, looked in the direction where Zaraki Kenpake was going, and said pretentiously, "The Minos Grandes will treat Captain Zaraki well. I hope they will like Captain Zaraki's taste." There was a hint of ridicule in his words, but it made a group of ordinary Shinigami tremble. These ordinary Shinigami are mostly logistics personnel in the Expeditionary Force sequence, and they are not very courageous. For Shinigami, being eaten by the Hollow is a fate more terrible than death. Now that they have come to Hueco Mundo, the base camp of this terrifying monster, even the elite officers are full of uneasiness, let alone these ordinary logistics personnel. Uehara Nija stood there quietly, without much expression on his face, but secretly felt that Hueco Mundo was too boring. This barren land lacks vitality and vigor. No wonder those hollows gradually go crazy here, swallowed by endless loneliness and desire. Tosin Kaname is like a calm commander, his cold face reveals concentration and determination. He commanded the technicians of the 12th Division in an orderly manner. Under his arrangement, those technicians quickly got busy around the gate. They carefully checked every part of the gate, and the tools in their hands flashed a faint light, reflecting their focused expressions under the cold moonlight of Hueco Mundo.